Here's the deal. If you want something done right, do it yourself. There's a lot of customers that always walk through the door who end up trying to fix something on their car and they fuck it up completely. A lot of the service advisor and the technicians will kind of make fun of the idea of somebody else trying to work on their car. Oh, shouldn't have let Joe Schmo do it. Oh God, should have just came in and let us do it ourselves. Well, here's the reality. I actually applaud that person for trying to do it themselves, and then when something happens, they end up taking it into the shop. Maybe actually get it solved the way they want. I think more people need to fix their own cars nowadays. At least your brakes, right? Because that will save you a lot. Like, people just don't do enough research to actually, get the things, done on their car, how they're supposed to or when they want. And they often just, think that spending thousands of dollars on your car at a dealership or at a mechanic shop means that your car is like good to go. I think it would do people a lot better if they just did more research into their car. I honestly, it's a little shocking seeing some customers because, like, not all of them want to bring their car in to get serviced. A majority of them do, obviously, because they just don't want to deal with it. It's easier. It's like, you go to a doctor for a throat ache, but, you ended up wasting your own time, your own money, when it's just like, well, the reason why you have a throat ache is because you were yelling for 20 minutes straight, so you should probably rest your voice. And that's exactly what the doctor's going to tell you, and you're already kind of knew ahead of time. So when a car pulls in and the brakes are metal to metal, and they're like, yeah, well, I don't know, car's kind of making this noise. It's like, well, yeah, and the car doesn't stop really well. It's like, well, did you think that maybe there's an issue with the brakes? And if so, what did you do to remedy that situation? It's like, well, I'm here, aren't I? And it's like, yeah, you are. People get a little too comfortable relying on these mechanic shops nowadays. And the reason why is because there's really nobody else to go to. But people, I urge you to go to small family-owned private shops. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to be less schemy than the dealerships, because the dealerships are essentially like legalized scheminess, like, because they have a name brand protecting them from harm's way of potentially ever doing anything wrong, even though that's not true. Whereas family dealerships, it's more easier to target them for crookedness and wicked ways because they're an unproven brand, and they're there more for, trying to. I think that family businesses actually try and do a better service than a dealership service, because a dealership service is more like cranking out hotcakes at McDonald's in the morning, versus a family one is more like actually trying to take the time. Now, they do crank out work, but I think they take more time to really focus on particular issues and solve them for you. But you do have to be careful because they can still be more schemy. But besides from that, people have stopped just trying to fix their cars on their own. I think a big reason for that is the culture change. I think people are just generally more lazy than they used to be. I think people are just more undermotivated than they used to be. And I think that, people just are used to having other people solve their problems. And I think that, critical thinking has gone out the window over the past couple of years. I think that, trying to do what's best for yourself has gone out the window. I think American culture has a problem. And I think that this is one of the ways that it affects it. I think that in the sense that people are just generally dumber. They don't understand how basic mechanical functions work, or just anything really for that matter. And you don't have to. My cousin is from Italy, and they make you take a test fully explaining the basic mechanical parts of a car. And I think that we need that in like all schools in America. We need to be taught about what the future holds, and how basic functions work and how to survive in life. And unfortunately, that's more of a job that's up to the parents, whereas school is up to a curricular activity. But the problem is like the movie Idiocracy, when you have a bunch of parents that are pretty idiots and they multiply at the rate of 5 times the normal sense, and the people who are smart and teaching values and doing things for themselves don't exactly, have that multi-generational hand down of knowledge, because you might have one or two kids and the idiots might have like 20. They're not teaching them these skills of like, hey, maybe we should work on these things ourselves and take some type of responsibility. I think parents do try. I think it's some kids take to it and some kids don't. Like my father taught me how to drive a stick shift on a Ford Ranger, and I caught on to it pretty quickly. He did the same thing for my sister, and my sister was like, yeah, it's not for me. She could probably do it if she needed to, but it's like sometimes it's just more accepted in people and more isn't. I think that it's easier to teach a young boy, obviously, about mechanics more than it is about, than it would be to a young girl, obviously. But I think that a boy's, just basic nature of being able to understand or try to learn how to take things apart is probably another motivating factor. But in the sense of just people on a general scale, even the most basic knowledge of, a car being broken, or, needing to do your own oil changes, just stuff like that. I think that people are wasting time bringing their cars to dealerships, because it's like going to the doctors, and like I said before, like you're going in for a throat ache and you're there for 3 hours, and then you have to have a copay, and unless if you don't have insurance, you're paying this much money. And it's like, well, just take a cough drop and take it easy. It's like, well, I could have figured that out on my own, but I had to have this doctor tell me that. A lot of problem. It would clean up a lot of clogged problems, especially in the dealerships. And I don't think it would make dealerships lose money. I actually think it would make dealerships run more efficiently and more streamlined to actually grow, because we wouldn't be so clogged up with mediocre and minuscule issues, that because people are willing to solve their own problems on their own. I'm ranting. See, this is a problem. I like critically thinking about topics, but I don't have a specific direction. I do, but I don't. It kind of varies, because it's like I feel like every topic is like a multi-layered conversation, and I have to talk about every aspect, or else I'll lose my train of thought. But yeah, the basic question: people need to do things more on their own. They shouldn't rely on these dealerships to have to do things for them. Like, you have a code on your car for upstream O2 sensor. Well, go buy yourself a wrench, go buy yourself a socket, and it's probably going to be seized in there if you live in a rust state. So it's probably gonna not want to come out right away. So you might have to learn how to use a little mini propane torch. Look up a YouTube video and then figure out how to do it on your own. If it's easy enough. If it's too complicated, give it a try. And if it seems too complicated and you don't want to ruin anything, stop. Then you can take it to a mechanic and they can do it. But I think that, like I said before, I think that the biggest problem with this is just a culture problem. Another problem, I think, is that I think cars are becoming so complicated that it's actually scaring people away. Not that it didn't before, because the different levels of complication, come at a different. Like, if somebody from the 1950s was looking at a car from the 1980s, they would probably think that that's pretty complicated. But if someone from the 2000s was looking at a car from in the 1980s, they'd probably be like, well, maybe that's not that as complicated as I thought. But I think, even for me, I think these modern cars are so complicated, even I don't understand certain systems that they have. Because I think, for me, on my moral level, I just don't agree with the systems. So it does have them, and whether they're efficient or not is beyond me. I mean, we can get into an argument about that, but I think that the systems that are being used on the cars today are pretty mediocre at best. And I think since I don't agree with them morally, I don't take the time to focus on things on the cars that don't exactly matter. And I think I try and value the customer more because of that, which isn't exactly good in a business aspect because you end up losing money for the company. You can try, and you will probably fail, but as long as you tried is what's important. I think that is necessary. Obviously, learning and failing is necessary for any type of learning curve. That doesn't exactly exist nowadays. And it causes a problem, a multi-layered problem. The prices of the cars have gone up. I wonder if it's scaring people away. Well, actually, I'm going to be honest. I think there's a lot of reasons. I think from what I'm seeing, the main reason is just convenience. It is very convenient to just bring your car to someone and have them do everything for you. A lot of the customers who come in are relatively older people, so they probably have families and they probably have lives. But here's the thing. When my son gets older and I need to do an oil change, I'm going to say, son, come with me. I need your help with something. And he's going to watch his dad change the oil on his truck or his car. And then it taught him something. I think when these modern day parents get their cars serviced, there's nothing wrong with getting your car serviced. But I think what it does is, I think the more you do on your own, the smarter you are, the more how you can understand how certain situations work. I think you become more... I think the more things you do, obviously, the smarter you are. And I think when you just bring your car to somebody to, fix it, it's not making you less smart, but it's not exactly improving any type of skill. Now, when somebody wants to bring their car to get serviced, it's not like they want to build on any type of skill. I'm completely aware of that. But what I'm saying is that basic little habitual habits like this, multi-generational teachings of, teaching your kid to bring your car to the mechanic, has an effect on a lot of things, like the economy. It has an effect on, what type of kids are being raised. So if you have a child that's not being raised in the sense of, with some type of mechanical understanding, I try to loop this conversation into mechanics because I'm trying to really talk about cars. When you're raising a child, not raised around the mentality of fix it yourself because it's more affordable and it teaches you things, or teaching, well, it's easier to bring it to somebody because we're afraid to fuck it up, so we'll spend the extra money to do it. So I wouldn't say it's leveraging time for money, because if anything, they're actually spending more money and more time. They might have to take time out of work, leave work early to get the service done on their car, and they're also paying up thousands of dollars to do so. So if it costs thousands of dollars, let's say $3,000, and your average income is $1,000 a week, then you're spending 3 weeks of your life that you worked for to fix this one piece on your car the car costed $40,000 original MSRP. So think about how many weeks of your life you just spent just to get to this moment in time. Now, if you think about it and from a financial point where it's like, well, it's a $100, $150 part, and it would take me 3 hours to do it in my driveway. If I was experienced, it might take me the whole day to do it. Well, you just spend one day and a couple $100 versus a couple hours and a few $1,000, because a few $1,000 was spent working at your job, which obviously took longer to do. And you come out of it with knowledge. So you actually are saving money. So when people say things are more convenient, I would actually disagree. I think it actually makes it more inconvenient if you're looking at it from a financial point of view. Now, from a burger flipping point of view, it is completely 100% convenient to go by McDonald's because it's right there and easily accessible. It obviously isn't good for you. So if you do that mentality too often, chances are you're going to develop diabetes later in life, and then all of a sudden it's not going to be as convenient as you thought later down the road. So I think what people think are convenient is also, misconstrued, and it's not exactly what they think it might be all out to be. Like they might think that they're cutting a corner or getting something done, when in reality the chore that they're doing is actually making things harder, especially in the future. Like I don't agree with people buying thousands and thousands of dollars and putting that much money into their car unless they were restoring it to drive it for another 300,000 miles. And the reality is it's absolutely ridiculous. I think that like even for things like a brake job, people are willing to spend thousands of dollars to get it done rather than just to do it themselves. Because that is probably one of the most simplest and most common things because it's a maintenance item. And people can definitely do it. You buy a torque wrench, you buy your small socket set, and you could totally do your brakes on your own, and you can learn how to do it. Just look up a video. It's not impossible. But again, it has things to do with the leveraging thing. And, we don't want to oil up our driveway or dirty our driveway. We don't have the time. Well, you have the time to work that job the entire time. It's like, I don't know. I think people do have the time. I think they just choose not to because out of the thought of convenience. But I think there's a lot of nuance on what the word convenience is. So, all in all, I think people, you should try and fix your car. And if you make a mistake, so be it. Because at the end of the day, you were thinking about taking it to a mechanic anyway, so they're going to have to fix the problem regardless. I think that problem solving is worth more than money. And I think that learning from your lesson and learning something new is more valuable than leveraging your time and money. Because not everybody in this world has to be a business savant and maximize profits and leverage and maximize their time. At least they think they are. Learning basic skills I feel like is actually more important, especially for maintaining a life of structure and consistency rather than just having to rely on multiple sources of people for your survival. I think that people need to be a little bit more self-sufficient. Fix your car on your own. Give it a try. That's all.